Those in favor of the motion.
One of the persistent criticisms that trailed the 9th Assembly is that federal lawmakers failed to assert their independence from the presidency, particularly in the area of scrutinizing loan requests. However, some of the senators say this will not happen in the 10th Assembly.
Enough time will be given to oversight function to follow what the executive is doing. So we are going to follow them bumper by bumper to make sure that the funds allocated, approved by us, allocated and released are properly managed.
You've heard from the Senate President that he will maintain the independence of the Senate, and I believe that he will do so. But what matters is that those things that needs to be done for Nigerians are done seamlessly.
In the lower chamber, after a record-breaking victory for Honorable Abbas Tajuddin, the Speaker of the 9th House and governors present states their expectations of the 10th House of Representatives.
Some work is unfinished. I expect them to finish off that job. Constitutional amendment, the issue of gender parity, and so many other things. The electoral laws remains unfinished, even though a strong foundation has been laid.
We understand that 9th Assembly was one of the biggest in terms of the bills and everything, but the 10th Assembly have, a target to meet and surpass. So I imagine they were going to settle very, very quickly and be able to begin to pass laws and make decisions that will be beneficial to all Nigerians in respect of what part of the country you come from.
Let there be inclusivity. Every region, every gender, every age group, and everybody in this country should be included, should be brought on board, and let them settle down and begin to carry out the legislative business.
The newly sworn-in lawmakers appear ready to get to work.
On security, issues on infrastructure, issues on education, issues on youth empowerment, women inclusiveness. Based on what President have said about the minimum wage for the civil servant, we as a legislature will make sure at any moment that the law come up, we're able to make it, and that law should be implemented to make sure that the civil servant of each of this country are well paid for them to stand the challenges of this country.
We already have a nexus between the executive and the legislature with the appointment of the outgoing speaker as the chief of staff to the president. So we expect the legislation, the relationship to be very mutual and cordial.
Though the House is not constitutionally allowed to screen ministerial nominees, they expect that portfolios will be attached to the list.
I would prefer as well that he attaches portfolios so that in evaluating the content that they are coming with, we should be able to situate the challenges ahead of them relative to what they are coming with.
Yes, portfolios ought to be attached to the nominees before bringing them to the National Assembly, so that the representatives will ask them based on what they want to be given to.
If he attaches the portfolios to the individuals, I don't think there's anything wrong in that, because the nomination starts from your intention. For you to nominate somebody, you must know that the capability, the ability of the person, and where you need the person to work with you, to help you. So you have a problem you want that person to solve.
The business of lawmaking for the 10th National Assembly begins now, as it prepares to either follow in the steps of the 9th Assembly or chart its own course. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed. We'll be talking about the emergence of the leadership of the 10th National Assembly. They had their elections and the inauguration yesterday. So we've got some gentlemen joining us to shed some light on what transpired. Honorable Obinna Chidoka is a former member of the House of Reps on my far right, and sitting right beside him, Honorable Eze Nwachukwu Eze, who is a member representing Ebonyi State in the House of Reps. He's a member of APC, while Honorable Chidoka is a member of the PDP. Gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
I'll start with you, Honorable Eze. Yes, we did course, everybody saw how the whole thing went. Not in the House of Reps now. Let's start off with the Senate, as a matter of fact, and see, before we then come to the House, where both of you, of course, that's where you are, your forte. You were there. You're currently there at the moment. So in terms of what played out at the Senate, because, I mean, what was for you when you were in there? Were you keeping tabs with what was going on in the Senate, or you're just focused on how it was going to play out in the House of Reps?
Well, once again, thank you for having me on board. As a party man, core party man, no doubt, I kept the tab on what's going on in the Senate. We are communicating. And
that didn't affect anything in terms of your focus, how it was going to play out in the House?
No. We already, you see, in this kind of arrangement, the driver of the Nigerian project now, the president, has shown, even before the election, and the party also, have done kind of consultations, discussions on how we will have a seamless election. So we already know the areas that would have brought cost distractions for us in the House of Reps had to an extent been taken care of.
What about the Senate?
That is what I mean. While in the House of Reps and trying to look into what was going on in the Senate, we already know areas of our challenge. So there was not much, no distractions.
What were those areas?
Those areas were areas who have serious contentions on the election of the two principal officers. A lot of work was done, consultations were made, so it went free.
But did you expect Senator Yari to get the amount of votes he got?
Actually, certainly not. Never expected that. For me, it was a surprise.
What did you think was going to happen?
I was thinking, well, similar to what happened in the Reps was going to happen.
Landslide?
Landslide. But you see, this is just a slim escape. 20 votes. Just 20 votes.
You call 20 votes a slim escape?
Yes.
Some people would say it's a show of vibrant democracy, considering the method that the House, I beg your pardon, that the Senate employed. What has shocked them is what the House deployed in reaching the election of its own principal officers. Since 1999, people cannot recall a time when voice vote was resorted to in electing the primus inter pares of the Speaker, of the House of Representatives. Where did the House get the idea to use voice vote to elect the Speaker of the House of Representatives?
Well, the rules was not made by we, the first freshers. It was the 9th Assembly that made the rules. And we made the rules and followed it. So that's my answer.
What was the rules? I mean, the rule states that the Speaker must be elected by, because I'm going to come to Honorable Chidoka. He was a member of the 9th House. Was that what you people left? But tell us clearly, what does the rule state? Were there other options there, or that was the primary option that was given?
There were options. But you see, the main chamber is now on repair for some time now. So most of the facilities that would have given us the options of electronic votes and so on are not in place.
What facilities are you speaking of?
You see, in the rules we have options of electronic voting. And when you come to electronic voting, by its definitions, it means a lot.
Yes.
And I say...
We saw another rule which the Senate followed. I mean, they used the secret ballot, and it also produced results that went in tandem with what the APC wanted. The House instead chose, some other option which some people found rather obnoxious.
Well, when you have options, you have the right to choose. Like I said, the choice of the pattern of vote we use was chosen by the 9th Assembly.
So 9th Assembly, Honorable, let's go to 9th Assembly. 9th Assembly, over to you. Was this your doing? Did you set a booby for members that were coming after you?
No, there was no booby trap. So the Constitution allows the National Assembly to make laws to regulate themselves. And I can't quite remember the exact date or time, but I know there were constitutional amendments for us to regulate our order, the order that governs the House. And if I remember clearly, sections 53, sections 54, which dealt with quorum. You know, from the past, when you know what has happened, then you want to prevent it in going forward. 2015, remember there was only about 57 senators, or 57 or 59 senators who elected Bukola Saraki. And at that time, the law says 1/3 of members shall be seated, 1/3. But we went ahead to amend that section, if I'm not mistaken, 54(1), to say that 2/3 of members must be seated in the chambers. So if you count and there are not 240 people there, you cannot start elections for the House. Secondly, we went ahead to amend our order as well to talk about voice votes, that every member shall openly announce his candidate. And that's why I said that members should always go for sitting, and people should always understand what it is they're voting for. I know that an issue came up later in the House where that when people eventually saw what would happen, tried to change that particular amendment, but it never worked. You know, it was blocked at some point because they said, and the Senate never went ahead to change theirs.
So they still had the
secret ballot. But in the House, it's clear. The law was cleared. It was passed.
But was that a factor in the emergence of Akpabio, or the kind of votes that Yari got, the secret ballot?
So, like I always will say that the party will remain supreme. So I think that majority of the members, especially in the House, will have run away from their choice of candidate because of the reprisals that might come from the party.
Even though it was secret?
Okay, I'm talking about the House. So, of course, in the Senate, I'm sure that's one of the major reasons Gary was able to get the kind of vote he was able to get. So, the up and down sides of it is that in the House, of course, members can come to you and say, I'm going to vote you, and then go to the next person, I'm going to vote you, because on that day, you're going to come to the House and choose one person. But in the Senate, you'll find senators who were Senate president shopping. They go to this camp, 9th floor, they go to that camp, 4th floor, they go here and there and telling you, I will vote for you, I will vote for you. If you go and ask both of them, they will tell you that they've entered that chambers with probably 70 or more senators as signed by them, for them. And of course, Akpabio is coming out with about 63 senators, and he is coming about with the 46 senators, with all the campaigns they've done. So I guess that in the midst of the secret ballot system, some will have voted Yari and some will vote
I mean,
Akpabio.
at the end of the day, what should happen is that people should be able to vote who they really, really want.
Sure.
At the end of the day. But in the House, what I found very interesting was that, you know, there was this talk of minority in the majority, or was it the greater majority as they called themselves? I mean, the fact that members in the opposition parties put together were more than those in the APC. That there was no resistance on their own part as reflected in the votes that we saw. It would seem that, you know, the person whom the APC wanted was whom they all endorsed. Do you find that a bit odd?
Very odd. I find that very odd because it shows me that my party didn't quite come together to decide on who they wanted as the speaker. So I guess that what they did was they allowed the members to go in and flow with the tide. Because usually the PDP will come back, and if you check it, we have about 119 members. The APC as a whole has about 179 members. So if you add the PDP, Labour, SDP, NMPP, and others, they constitute the majority. But just like in the past, where the party will decide on where we should go. So I think that our party and the other parties simply didn't have an alternative. And so what they did was just allow members to just go ahead and decide within themselves.
We saw Mr. Debo Ologunagba, I think he addressed journalists the last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know if, I hope that our producers might be able to get that tape of him saying, you know, that, you know, the PDP is going to show its members or direct its members on where to go. And, you know, we're going to see something, some sort of active play out of democracy on the floor of the National Assembly. Maybe we saw something of it in the Senate. Well, certainly not in the House, where there's usually plenty of vibrancy. And we know that oftentimes, even though sometimes the Senate might set a precedent for what might happen in the House, as we saw in the 8th Assembly, we also know that the House tends to have a life of its own, and it's usually not the one, it's non-conformist.
Yes.
But in this instance, it would seem that it was almost totally conformist without any resistance.
So going back, there usually will be a candidate that the PDP would adopt as the alternate candidate. So in 2015, you had such Indogara, who the party felt we should go for as against the mainstream candidate of Femi Gbajabiamila. In 2019 election, we saw something that looked like that as well in Honorable Bago from Niger State, who the party also and the other parties felt we might be able to go for this person against also the mainstream of Femi Gbajabiamila. But in 2023, I didn't see such.
No, there was Honorable Wase, who was Deputy Speaker in the 9th Assembly.
You can go back and ask candidates who are from PDP if there was any such meetings, if there was any such sittings where they decided that this is where the party should go. So I think that the party just left it the way it is and then allowed them to flow. And then, of course, getting there. And once people see where the popular opinion is going to, you don't want to be the odd man out. And especially now that it's a voice vote, an open vote, because after that vote, you're going to go back and the next thing on the agenda, which he knows, will, or rather he will get to know shortly, will be the committees. It will be the committees.
But pardon me, did the APC or your members, did they reach out to the PDP, Labour and all the other parties to try and see how they could bring them on their side, since, I mean, I'm not sure PDP had that meeting?
Before I get to your question, I want to say this. This kind of, some kind of uniqueness in doing things that we are going to experience in the 10th Assembly. Because this consciousness of trying to rebuild Nigeria, bring the Nigeria project, all be on board in the Nigeria project, is running in us. That's my observation, irrespective of party. I convened the unity group on new members, specifically for Abbas. So I followed all through his campaigns. We visited all political parties in their national secretariats and discussed the issue of unity of the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, because that's the mini Nigeria. Every part of this country is represented. And if you are truly the representative of your people, their welfare, the peace and stability of your people and the country should come first, not the party now. I think that's what played out. Some leaders, some party leaders tried to talk to their members on to vote otherwise. But if when we meet as colleagues, discussing, chatting, and trying to talk to each other, people, the members on their own, thought it right to toe the path that we have a united house.
Yeah, but
following what your political party may be saying as opposition.
What, you don't agree with that?
How do I agree with that?
Why?
That's what happened. I want to really assure you, sorry, it's not the adverse effect of not voting to a particular direction. Because in time past, we have people who made up their minds for whatever reason to go a particular direction. And they were all in the house. And they represented their people very well. And they got democracy dividends to their people.
We'll pick up on that bit, but why did you disagree with it?
Well, except PDP members who come and say, okay, the party told us to vote this way. The PDP and APC are not the same party. As a different party, the party must have what they want to achieve in every particular house. So if they have looked at it and felt that Abbas was the candidate that they wanted to achieve, that's fine. Because sometimes the policies we have as opposition party is totally different from what the APC is talking about. We have sat on the floor of the House, stood on the floor of the House, and challenged some of the policies of the APC government. So if you looked at it and said, okay, there's no alternative to TJ Abbas, or maybe they don't feel that Wase was that right candidate, or they don't feel that the other candidates were not good enough as Abbas is a different matter. But as a political party, there must be a semblance of an opposition party. You must be seen to say, this is where we're headed to. And as our members, hold them to a meeting and say, this is our stance. This is our stance on economic issues. This is our stance on social safety net. This is our stance on political issues. This is where we stand. Does Abbas fit into those lines? Yes, if it does, then that's fine.
So now the thing is this, I mean, yes, you say you reached out to members of the other political parties, the new members, of which convene the unity group. Usually we see that in this kind of things, there has to be something in it for the members themselves. He made reference in passing to the next phase, which he said you will find out, the committee stage. Did you promise any of these new members anything, or just vote for me, the party, we need to move country forward, and then that's it, the APC members get all the quote-unquote juicy committees?
No, you see, he was in the 9th Assembly, and he knows clearly that some of the committees, very important committees, were chaired by the PDP members. The PDP member from my state, Afipo, not Afipo, South constituency, Honorable Idu Igariwe, is of the PDP extraction. He was the deputy chairman of appropriation.
Deputy
chairman.
The chairman.
Yes, deputy chairman of appropriation. I can still name some of his.
I thought you said they were chaired by.
No, when you say deputy chairman of appropriation, he knows what I'm talking about. He knows what it means.
Really?
For someone to be the deputy chairman of
what does it mean?
in the House.
It means nothing to me. I don't know what it means.
He knows what it means. So many of them, during the 9th Assembly, are chairman.
No, but we know that being a chairman and being a deputy chairman are two different things.
I've just mentioned one.
Okay.
And we can still go on and on. He knows what I'm saying. He can't dispute this fact.
So was there any?
Now there was
there any guarantees?
No.
Oh.
It's already a kind of a precedence. You have said it here that they have majority, the opposition parties. So there's no way they will be left out. The Abbas only made a promise. The much I know is that committees are going to be shared equitably among members, not within the political ranks, among members. So when it comes to the committee, by the promises we made, we are not going to consider your political party, but your what?
Even if your party says, no, this is a party decision, follow party decisions. Can Abbas go against party decisions?
See, in the House, to the extent of my knowledge for now, and what I have gotten from them, committees are shared to states. They are located. They sit down, the committee on sharing of committees will do this on the board sharing, and then unveil. For example, in the Southeast, they will say, Committee 1, 2, 3, 4. Chairmanship is going to the Southeast. We have the Southeast caucus. We know ourselves. We can go in and discuss it.
Okay.
Or the leadership themselves can do that.
Let's go.
But I want to assure you to be across party lines.
We've since been joined by Honorable Dennis Agbo, a member of Labour Party. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we did ask, while the program went on, many were looking to see how Labour Party will vote, what will be their stance in the scenario as it played out. But it turned out they didn't see any of such things that Labour usually was known for. What happened? Why did they, quote-unquote, collapse like a pack of cards and then voted for the APC?
Labour did not collapse like a pack of cards.
What happened?
At the build-up to the election, so many things happened at every point in time and at every juncture. There was a time we belonged to the minority caucus. The Labour Party belongs to the minority caucus. We are number 2 in the minority caucus after PDP, Labour, after Labour, and NPP. That was if you tally our numbers, we had 183 members, 182 if you remove the person who died. We have 182. We were in the majority. That was the time we decided that majority should carry the vote. But PDP, the largest number in the minority caucus, had 116. APC, the ruling party, had 170 something. Now, we decided at that point that we should even be able, with our number, to produce the speaker and the deputy speaker. We had people who, from among us, the minority caucus, the speaker was zoned to the PDP, the deputy speaker was zoned to Labour. So people were already, a panel was set up, a committee of 11 was set up to screen people who had interest. We passed that stage. We had people screened for speakership, persons screened for deputy speaker. The progress continued. At some point, we decided, okay, fine, let the ruling party produce the speaker, because they have 177, even larger than PDP. And don't forget, among the 82 people, so to speak, you can't expect to have every person in the in the minority caucus speaking with one voice. Interest started coming in. And so the biggest block you can have is the APC with 177. But even within themselves, they also had about 6 candidates or 7. They had 1 candidate endorsed by their party. They had 6 other people coalescing into a G6. So their vote also was not good. So we were considering these things and strategizing. It's a process.
But at the end of the day,
I'm coming. At the end of the day, what happened?
You know what happened.
So, no,
you didn't vote. You voted.
So what happened?
You know who you voted for.
What? No, I'm coming. So at this point, there was not even. It was like going head on. At a point, we softened. So okay, let any of the people who are negotiating to be speaker come and take from us a deputy speaker. Okay, that's the second stage. Now, who then produces the deputy speaker? Is it PDP or is it Labour, to whom it was zoned to? We passed that stage. We continue to move forward. Now, the thing about the
pressure... You passed that stage with what agreement? What was the agreement when you passed the stage?
It's a discussion. It's an interaction. It's an engagement.
Okay.
So pardon me. We need to go to break, but don't worry. We'll come back and let you continue, and then we'll also get more questions from our colleagues. Stay with us. All right, welcome back, Honorable Agbo. You were giving us a build-up as to why you think Labour did not collapse, yes. And so please continue.
Okay, now, politics is a game of numbers. And so to us in the minority caucus, it will be our desire that the 7 candidates of APC continue to nibble on their number, the 177. It was also our desire that our 182 remained intact. Along the line, it was not really so. The APC came up with their candidate, and the other people formed themselves into a G6. The G6 more met our expectations and the desire, our philosophy, what the Nigerian people wanted. An independent legislature. So we were intent upon working closely with the G6. But the G6 also, we expected them to come up with their own choice candidates. Their own choice candidates will organize the numbers of all the various candidates within the G6, and then that should be a substantial number to join us, and then the person will be able to come out as a speaker. That was not happening quickly, and we were monitoring the process. Who eventually emerges from that process was not happening very quickly.
Why couldn't you decide on one person that you're going to support?
It is not us that would, any person from the G6, because they are on their philosophy, their program, their plan for an independent list. What our interest is not to break into APC government. Our interest is not to break into APC government. For instance, even the person who has emerged today is a good enough speaker, well educated, a team player.
So why didn't it fit into your plan initially?
But our worry is the process of his emergence. I have even one-on-one, I had told him, you are sound, good enough to be any best speaker anywhere. But my interest is the independence of the legislature. My concern is the separation of powers. Do you think my concern is the process of your emergence.
Do you think that has now been compromised with the way he emerged? That independence you're so worried about?
I didn't get your question.
Do you think that independence which you are concerned about, because you're talking about the process of his emergence, do you think that independence might have been compromised as a result of how he emerged? Not really in this
case, and I will explain to you. The reason is that right now, DJ Abbas has become the product of the House of Representatives. I'm coming. We are 360 members. 353 voted for DJ Abbas. 353. He has become now the product of the...
My colleagues in Lagos will ask you more questions, all of you, so please, let's go to them. Go ahead, guys.
Thank you, Chamberlain. Let me begin with Honorable Chidoka. Something you said the other time ticked my interest when you said that the APC and the PDP are two distinct political parties. So I want to ask you, what exactly differentiates the PDP from the APC aside from the name?
Yes, that's always been an interesting question. And especially if you look at political commentators, they will tell you there are no ideological differences between the two parties. But of course, I would tend to differ, because if you look at our policies when we're in government, if you look at our policies in terms of economic policies, in terms of social welfare, in so many other avenues, you will see that the PDP, of course, is not in tandem with the APC. The PDP believes in all-inclusive government, is a government that is more neoliberal in terms of economic policies. But what you have seen in the APC departure in the past 8 years is that you've seen a government that tends to favor one section of the country, going against the constitution by not adhering to federal character, by also bringing policies that are strange to most of us. And that is where we've seen where the economy of Nigeria is headed to today, and the social issues, social unrest that we've seen today in the economy. So when you talk about that, it's not just in the name, it's also in our ability to bring about those policies. If you go back a bit, you will see that during the Obasanjo era and Okonjo-Iweala being a minister, you will see how PDP handled the debt issue of Nigeria. We believe in being, financially accountable, being able to look at our income, our expenditure, looking at our foreign debts, being able to bring it down, and of course pay out. Today, Nigeria has gone down onto the doldrums. You know how much we are owing today, and that is also a divergence from our economic beliefs. So those are some of the issues that we believe in, that PDP is a more progressive party. Other than the name progressives in APC, there's nothing progressive showing from what they've done in the past.
Well, Honorable, there are those who would say,
I respect them.
Elections. There are those who would say elections are over. So the dichotomy of names, I guess one can just leave that aside for now. I mean, when you talk about the deaths, some will also look to the fact that even though you are speaking about former President Obasanjo, there is also the issue of the fact that that burden began to come back again. Even before the APC came into power. But let me ask Honorable Agbo this one. There is this very interesting permutation that Bukola and I were talking about before while you guys were talking on the other side. And that is the fact that the president is a former senator and a former governor. The Vice President is a former senator and a former governor. The First Lady, of course, is a former senator. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is a former senator and a former governor. The Chief of Staff to the President is a former legislator. As a matter of fact, a former speaker. You are well aware of that. The President of the Senate is a former governor and a serving senator. So is there any way that this assembly can escape the stigma of a rubber stamp, knowing that the intrigues of the legislature is well understood by the executive and will be exploited fully?
Okay. For me, it's interesting. The array of people you have read out as the composition of the new government, legislature, and the executive. For the first time, we're having an experienced politician, senator, governor, ex-governor, leader of a party, becoming the president. We expect him to understand the thinking of the legislature. We expect him to understand the interest of the legislature. What is it? We want to be independent. When he sat on our own side, he also must have aspired to the independence of the legislature. He should understand that when we seek the independence of the legislature, it is not asking out of tune. Now, at the build-up for the election, which we voted yesterday, there were promises. Oh, don't worry, I was produced by my party. I'm the preference of my party, but I'm not going to be their rubber stamp. It remains to be seen. But don't forget, we are also there and ready to hit the ground running as the opposition party. We are Labour Party. We have our philosophy. We have our thinking. We have our own idea about a new Nigeria. So, and we are not intent upon just rocking the boat unnecessarily. If they live to their expectations, we will cooperate with them.
Honorable,
and we will
let me explicate on that question.
To join hands together to build
just
that new Nigeria,
Honorable,
for the betterment of.
There was something you said the other time about. Just a second, if you can hear me,
we are going to.
Just one second,
Honorable. A robust opposition.
Yeah, if you can hear me, Honorable.
Opposition that will put them on their toes and.
Just 1 second, Honorable, if you can hear me. You said something the other time that the greater minority or whatever, the 183 or 182 now, had a position, so to speak. We're trying to come to a position, but could not really come to some kind of consensus. And as you said, out of 360 members of the House, 353 voted for the Speaker. Would you say, is it likely that, as you said, that we can have that kind of stiff opposition when a huge number of that opposition that you're talking about voted in one fell swoop in a particular direction? Won't the same thing repeat itself? Won't the same thing repeat itself when issues of governance or legislature concerning governance and budget and the rest of them come up?
Okay, in my thinking, that is the best situation, that's the best platform for a robust opposition, where we have said, you are a speaker of the Nigerian people, of the National Assembly, of the House of Representatives. We voted for you, we put you there. So now, when the game starts, like it will start today, we will now watch he has not rolled out his legislative agenda. He said he will do that shortly. We will watch what his legislative agenda is, what is in it for the Nigerian people. We will begin to now put everything on the tally. Now, ultimately, our interest is what's on the table for the Nigerian people. That's our interest. If they do the work, fine and good. The beneficiaries are the Nigerian people. But if they derail, if they go outside of, we will make sure that the right things are done. Luckily for us, in this last election was the election where you found Nigerian people getting more interested in the affairs of this country more than ever before. Now we are going to continue encouraging the Nigerian people to get interested, because ultimately the power belongs to them. And when any ruling party derails from what is the interest of the Nigerian people, it is for them to judge him. We are not there for ourselves, we are there for the Nigerian people. If they bring out a good program, we follow their group. We'll try to give them all the cooperation. But if they derail and try to kill a country with debt burden, if they don't pay attention to production and they just borrow to consume, we are going to say no. If they begin to do things that are reckless, abandoning the rule of law, we are going to say no. And I know that we will be in tune with the Nigerian people. And once we are in tune with the Nigerian people, we'll be able to draw whoever is in government to toe the line.
Well, Honorable, it would seem like, a contradiction of some sorts, because, as they say, the morning shows the day. The way that voting, went in favor of the Speaker doesn't hold a lot of promise about how you say that you're going to hold the executive to account. But let me come to Honorable Eze on the same wavelength, particularly about how the election was conducted at the Senate and at the lower chamber yesterday. The process is being scrutinized, right from the beginning, how, security was really top-notch. As a matter of fact, we started by talking about how the DSS took control of the process. We also talked about, we saw in the papers today about how some members-elect said they arrived as early as 4 a.m. to prevent a scenario of 2015. And then it's also a sticking point that the elections were conducted near simultaneously at the Senate and at the House of Representatives. And then it is also curious that at the lower chamber as well, it was a voice vote that was required. Surely, Honorable Eze, the ruling party left nothing to chance to see that the outcome favored its dictates. Did you get my question, Honorable Eze?
Yeah, I got your question in parts. I got your question in part, so I will be happy if you recap.
Yeah, I trailed the conduct, the traits of yesterday's exercise, in how it all started, how security was top-notch. Of course, the voice vote, as we saw in the lower chamber, and the fact that the elections held almost simultaneously at the Senate and at the House of Representatives. So surely the ruling party left nothing to chance with the manner in which the whole exercise went, just to see that the outcomes favored its dictates.
No, but she's finished. She's finished.
Okay. Are you on with me?
Yes, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me start by correcting this impression that I got from you now. In Nigeria, in the legislative lexicon, We don't have what is called the higher and lower chamber. We have a bicameral legislature with its full autonomy. You get me? So that others will correct this impression. We are not of the lower chamber and some other people at the higher chamber. We have what we call the red chamber and the green chamber for the purpose of differentiation. Our responsibilities are spelled out clearly in the law of the land. So when we hear this, even from you professionals, it seems misleading the public. So that impression needs to be corrected. Thank you for that understanding. Now, you said security yesterday was the top notch. Yes, that's the responsibility of the government. The security there is to protect Nigerians elected to represent other Nigerians. So the security was well beefed up, and we're happy about that. The time, venue, and date for this exercise was announced a week before the time, and it was for 10 a.m. So if anybody goes there 4 a.m. and 3 a.m., get him to explain what he went to the chambers to look for. As far as I am concerned, the government, the party, did their best. Well, changed from what I'm not aware of that. I woke up in the morning, dressed up, joined the bus like others, and we were driven into the chamber. The only challenge we had yesterday morning was that people started moving their private cars to the chambers, to the premises. And, you know, we had some gridlock, traffic gridlock. So some of us, because of the length, had to adjust. That was all. And
but Honorable
just like I told you, on our own, we decided to go to the chambers early enough so that we can keep interacting with our colleagues.
But Honorable Eze, why couldn't the House be trusted, to vote in line with how it would have voted? Why was a voice vote required?
If you were following this program at its inception, I laid the foundation, and my brother here, my senior colleague from the PDP, concurred. That was the rule of the House before we came. And he made it. He's here with me. He made the rule. And that's why I told you that we don't have anything like higher or lower chamber. We have a bicameral legislature with our independence. The House of Reps choose voice vote. The Senate chose secret ballot. And it all worked and worked fine.
The issue of ranking, I know that usually in the books you have a rule that says that your members, for them to emerge as leaders, they must be ranking members, even though the Constitution doesn't mention anything about that. And they tried to bring that up in the Senate yesterday. That didn't stand. They were told that you cannot bring up any objection until you've been properly convened as a House or as a Senate chamber. Where do you think that objection, assuming it was something that had any merit in it, where do you think it should have been brought up?
Okay, so please, let me go back a bit before I come back to that question very quickly. I don't see anything wrong in the voice vote because I've seen those issues being raised. What that simply showed us, and from what we've seen yesterday, that out of 35 members of the Labour Party who were elected into the 10th Assembly, not one had a dissenting vote. Not one. They simply told the line of the majority party, of the ruling party. So it's very important because the Nigerian people they keep referring to, and on whose mantra and on whose platform they run on, we begin to understand that when you get in there, whatever you see there is totally different from what they have promised you when they were campaigning. Because as it stands, the Labour Party, who should be in tandem with the labor organizations, have issues with the government. They should be able to show some of them. It's not because you are going to have quarrels or you want to divide the House, but you're simply showing that this is where my party stands. So it means that the Labour Party has no stance. Just like the way I felt that they in the minority could not even stay together to produce something that be worthwhile, even if it's a deputy.
Taking your pound of flesh, it's okay.
Yes.
Now to the issue
back to your question. Yes, you remember I said that the Constitution allows us to regulate our laws. Regulate laws for ourselves. And part of it is that, of course, you should have a bit of legislative experience for you to want to lead the House. You must have legislative experience. It is even also put in the way we sit and the way even our cards are numbered. If you go outside there and you find an honorable member who is from 1999, if you're not a principal officer from 1 to about 10 of them, the plate number start reading from 12, 13. So how I get to know members is I see MHR 260. I already know that this is a fairly new member. If I enter any premises and I see...
Maybe of...
he's going to be like 359.
What about Labour Party?
No, he's an old member. He came under PDP initially. He's been with us.
Even though he's under a new party. So that will count for something.
It will count for something, of course.
Okay,
so going back to...
Where should I have counted ranking?
Of course he should have counted. You cannot take
where? The question is where? Okay. Because the Senate, the clerk clearly stated that you cannot raise any objection until you have been inaugurated as a member of the National Assembly.
No, so I don't see where else it could have been raised except at that level, because I think part of the thing they wanted to do was to stop Yari from running, because they were not sure what will happen if they went into the secret ballot. Because, as I told you, this is an avenue for people to just probably show you where they belong. I'm even surprised that, they are the numbers. Because from what we have heard from the postulations and all that, we were waiting for an upset. We thought that at the end of the day, and that is why you see they became very scared.
In the Senate?
In the Senate, yes. They become quite scared because they felt that if they have gone into that two-horse race, that a surprise may emerge. In fact, people have postulated that Yari has won it already. And especially the Southern senators who were also looking, just like I told the APC, I said, consider the Southeast. So if Yari was going to take a Southeasterner as a deputy Senate president, it's expected that those people will go with him. And then depending on where the pendulum will swing. So if you look at the order of how the placements are in the House, I felt that they were in order to try to stop him from running before he upturns the cards.
Honorable, let me quickly ask you, do you think that the rules of the House in terms of how it voted, do you think it should change?
The rule as applied yesterday served us well.
It served you well?
And let me explain. A House member, it's not children that we have in the House of Representatives. They should be adults who come there with clear understanding of what they want, what their constituents want, what their party wants. And whether you want me to shout it or you want me to go secret or whatsoever, I will do it. Now, one of your people, they said I contradicted myself. I don't know how. Number two, PDP. They said Labour. I think that's the impression you got before I came here. Labour collapsed. No. We know what we're doing. We know. I can tell you, I'm involved and I'm in the forefront.
He said it doesn't appear as though you knew what you were doing.
No, I'm coming. Because you see, this. If you ask me a question, I will answer. What the truth is, in Labour Party right now, out of 35 members, there are 3 ranking members. I'm one of them. And I am supposed to provide some amount of leadership. What we did yesterday was well calculated. And it was intentional.
But some say, pardon me jumping, some say they didn't see that because they don't understand how is it that the opposition party put together all their numbers, you couldn't even get one principal officer.
I don't understand.
Not one.
I don't know. Only 2 presiding officers have been elected yesterday. Only 2 presiding officers were, and we decided that let the ruling party produce the 2 presiding officers, the speaker and the deputy speaker. We'll get into the...
Thank you very much for that.
I'm coming.
Okay, but why did that? That's what I want to get as quick as possible, as many perspectives. But you still disagree with his perspective, even though he says it's clear enough. Why is that?
Yeah, because I feel that this is party politics, and if you're elected on a platform to say you're elected by the Nigerian people, you come with the mantra of Labour, you come with the mantra of PDP, and put together your 184 in the House. I believe that you should have been able to take a position, even if you were not able to produce one of the principal officers or one of the presiding officers, even if you didn't go for deputy. What I've seen is two different political parties who sleep in different beds and have different dreams. At the end of the day, what I expect is that you can, as different parties, sleep in two different beds or two different pillows, but have one dream. What is that dream? That dream is to make Nigeria a better country. But in terms of party politics and in terms of you going to have a principal or officer, you should be able to use your numbers. That is why your opposition, if from day one you capitulated and you are now going to say Nigerian people voted us here and this, you have nothing to show for it. Nothing. So if that happens, then going forward, how are we sure that you'll be able to bring about people-oriented policies, programs that is labor-oriented or that is to the right, left of the PDP?
Aren't you preempting them? Because some people say even the PDP too did not vote, did not show the kind of opposition they wanted the Labour Party to emulate.
But I said it. I said it.
So what
I said it earlier.
So what's your goal?
I said it earlier that I felt that the political parties should have been able to possibly show the numbers they have, so that from day one, the ruling party will know that they're going to have a vibrant opposition in the House. They will have a vibrant opposition.
Why are you picking on Labour? That's the question.
Well, after PDP, of course, I've made my position on PDP. After PDP, of course, is Labour Party.
Let me make
and both of them together form the core majority.
Okay,
let me make a point.
I understand we need to go to break. When we return, you will make that point.
Yes.
When we return in just a moment. Okay, pardon. Okay, go ahead. Make the point until we just wrap.
Okay, the point I want to make is that Labour has 35 members. PDP has 116. That's one point. Number two, what has changed? Why are we worried about what happened yesterday? Nothing has started in the House. No issue, no legislative agenda has been rolled out. It is when we roll an anti-people agenda, that is where you hear from us in Labour Party. I have said here on this particular program, Abbas Tajuddin is good enough to be speaker. Our concern at the onset was the process of his emergence. Now he has become the speaker, which he is capable to do. But let the game start. The game is going to start today. We are going to be in chambers today. Let us now watch what happens. See, among all the contestants, he's good. He looks good. I was with him in 8th Assembly. So, he is not a stranger to me. He is capable to be speaker. But he has promised that, even though the party favored me, I'm going to be an independent speaker. He remains to be sane. And if he lives up to that, his promise, we don't mind.
All right. So, clearly, your party benefits from all of this. But he says, just watch it. If you take some wrong moves, you hear their voices.
Thank you. Well, he said they were apprehensive looking at the process that led to the emergence of the speaker. I personally and in our party, and he knows also, there was nothing wrong in the process. It was just a misconception. Every political party in every democratic setting will always want to make a submission. I said it in the previous program here, that there was nothing like imposition rather. But what we had was a submission. The party made a suggestion to us as elected legislation that they wish to.
Of which about 6 others disagreed.
And went also ahead to contest the election yesterday. To show you that democracy was really in place. Mr. President.
But some said they were compelled.
Nobody was compelled
to make sure they stand down.
No.
Stand down or else.
No, there's different. No. There was nothing like that.
If there were, would you even tell us?
This is the first time a president, sitting president, is engaging across party lines. So we expected.
Do you think that does it place a burden on the speaker, though? I mean, trying to satisfy everybody, considering the support he got. Definitely. Doesn't it place a burden on him?
It does.
The burden, whether it is the burden on him, it is the burden of the House, because we have to manage ourselves. You don't leave it for the speaker alone.
I think it places a heavy burden on him. That's my thinking.
Because in the House, we saw that in the 9th Assembly, they had the longest list of committees, and it was similar. That was to placate all the people that voted. So you see the list getting longer, the list of committees.
No. He is at freedom now. He doesn't even have to please anybody on committee allocation.
No. I think that the 9th Assembly as well was also because Femi Kwatabiamila believed in the joint task force, the nation building. So bring everybody on board. So let me correct. There are two different things we're saying here. Are the candidates who have emerged, are they great candidates? Yes, they are. Akpabio, former governor, former commissioner, former senator, has the wherewithal to become the Senate president. Barrow, chairman appropriations, has been in the House from the northwest. Great candidate. Abbas, very amiable, always has a smile on his face, very approachable, very easygoing, has been in the House since 2011.
Yes.
So you see that he's a ranking member who can lead the House. Ben Kanu is probably one of the youngest who came in 2019 and has become this. But I want to say that you must be able to show that there must be a semblance of an opposition in the House. They might argue differently. You've asked very important questions here. They might argue differently about the choices they've made and what they've done. Now they will soon understand it that going forward, like you said, that the committees are zoned, nothing of such. The horse trading will soon start. And at the end of the day, everybody is going to make sure that they get into one good committee or the other for the benefit of yourself and for your constituency. And I think that is where the game really starts. So,
all right. So, gentlemen, we have to thank you for coming on. Honorable Obinna Chidoka of the PDP, Honorable Eze Nwachukwu Eze of the APC, and Honorable Dennis Agbo of Labour Party. Gentlemen, thank you all for coming today.
Thank you.
We will be back in a moment. Stay with us.